Avoir. All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of FitPet Boston Talks. My name is Leah Lodato, and I am the host of the show. Today, I am joined by my spouse, Lori.
Hello.
And by our good friend, Molly Pruden.
Hello.
Thank you so much, Molly, for taking the time to hang out with us.
Of course.
Yeah, this is going to be really fun. If you're brand new to the podcast, thank you so much for your listening ear. It means the world to us that you have chosen to listen to our podcast. We try to have fun here on the show. Historically, this show has interviewed local Boston area dog handling professionals, and we sit down and chit-chat about our lives, dogs, and careers. I have had the privilege of meeting a bunch of really cool, talented people, and we've just had really authentic conversations, and it's been awesome. When I'm not doing that, Laurie and I sit down and do deep dives on specific dog training and handling topics, or we just talk about our lives, which can get a little crazy at times. And one of my favorite episodes to record is an owner interview, which is what we are doing today. So Molly is a client of ours. We've had the privilege of working with her and her dog Sam for the past couple of years. And recently, Molly and I have worked together working on Sam's diet because he was dealing with a couple of things. So I thought that this was a good opportunity to ask Molly to come in and just share a little bit about her journey with Sam, both with his training and also with changing up his diet, to give other owners a little bit of perspective on what we do here at ABC Dog Training and also what you can look forward to if you sign up for a nutrition consultation with me. So just to preamble a little bit, as I was getting my feet wet with giving advice to people, Molly had asked me for some advice. And I said, I'm going through this course. I'm finishing it up. I would love to take on this case, I guess you could say, as just kind of a fun project, which was good for me, and I think wound up being good for Molly. So it was a good way for me to really just work on how to communicate with somebody else regarding all of this stuff. And so we worked together with some level of success. And before we get into that, Molly, can you just introduce yourself and talk a little bit about Sam and who he is and what you guys are up to?
Yeah. So my name's Molly. I have a 1.5-year-old pit mix named Sam. Named Sam. I am actually his foster fail. So I was fostering him as a 3-month-old puppy and decided that he was the dog for me. He is my first dog, so I'm very much learning as I go. He came to me and actually was resisting the food that he came on. So from the start, he definitely presented as a dog with a sensitive stomach. As he got older, I thought I found a kibble that worked for him. It was chicken-based, and about 8 months or so, he started to have inconsistencies with his stools. And through talking with his dog walker, who's the other person that spends the most time with him, she started to question if he had a chicken allergy, which, as I learned, was a very common allergy in dogs. So I would switch his kibble again, trying to do it as slow as possible, as everyone tells you to do. And it seemed like it would work initially, and then we would be right back to square one, or it would present a different problem in him. And every time I talked to the vet, they would just kind of ho and hum about it and suggest that I try a different protein. And so in the course of his first maybe 14 months of his life, he was just on a ton of different foods, and I was kind of at my wit's end about it, very frustrated, to the point where we ended up on prescription food from the vet. He was put on a hydrolyzed diet, I believe is what it's called. And it worked initially, but I always felt like he wasn't getting what he needed, and he seemed hungrier and was looking for things out on the streets or trying to pick up animal feces or things like that. And so I never felt really comfortable about it. I felt like he needed more. I was concerned he was going to gain weight because he was needing more kibble. And it was very much just a really, really frustrating thing for him and for I. And so when I had heard that you were working on nutrition stuff, I was like, that's it. I'm going to ask about it. It can't hurt, because I was at the point of giving up. I was like, this is just who he's going to be. He's going to be a dog that's really inconsistent in the bathroom. and we're going to be really good at making that bland diet.
That, that's a funny way to put it. Really inconsistent in the bathroom.
Yeah.
Diarrhea forever.
That's
what she's not saying.
Yeah, pretty much. It got to a point where my sister was like, okay, I'm so sick of talking about Sam's poop. Like, you have to find something else to talk about. And I was like, okay, but this is what monopolizes my mind all day, every day. Every time we go outside, I hold my breath and I'm like, oh, what's it going to be? I don't know.
Somebody's looking out their bay window
Oh
at you
my
trying to pick up
God.
your dog shit on their
Like,
lawn. You're like
it's-
painting it across the lawn.
Yes. Been there, done that too many times.
Only dog people understand how
It's so true.
embarrassing that is.
It's awful. And when you're at someone else's like street or they don't know you and they're like, great, who's this person? And I literally just try and walk away as fast as possible.
Yeah.
Hope they don't even see us.
You're
and
just-
that it rains the next night.
You're just smearing it all over.
Yes. There's just no good way. It's awful.
Dog people love to talk about poop.
Yeah, we've found that just in talking to one another. So aside from really inconsistent bathroom, what was he having any other types of issues?
He actually got giardia at one point. So we were dealing with that, which interestingly, that medication even upset his stomach. And he just is he was an active puppy. He still is an active dog. And so he, constantly needed redirection. And I think being a first-time dog owner, I was very much learning as I was going and trying to use as many resources as I could. He went to puppy training camp at his local daycare, which was really great for him and taught me just as much as it taught him. But I felt like I wanted more. I wanted to consistently be training with him. And I think that he was a dog that thrived off of training and working and, having something to focus on. And so my upstairs neighbor actually, you guys have her dog. I believe his name is Teddy. I think he's a golden doodle.
There's so many Teddy golden doodles.
Yeah. I think he's an older one, maybe 10 years old,
Oh,
if that
wow.
narrows it down a little bit.
That was a while at home.
Anyway, she told me about you guys and, showed me the pictures and the nativity scene and all this and that. And she's like, you got to go with them. And so I'm so glad I reached out based
Wait a
on
minute.
where we are
so
today.
you just started coming after this year? Why
started
do I-
in like December, maybe.
Yeah, you said a couple years. I'm like, that's not right.
That is not right. I
Yeah.
stand corrected.
Yeah.
It's been
So I've only
like
been with you guys for
7
maybe
or 8 months.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. It seems like longer because Molly comes to every single group class that we have,
We take
Which
our
is-
attendance very seriously.
which is amazing.
But to the credit of the place you brought him before, he had a really nice foundation when he showed up. So I was impressed the first time I even met him. I was like, oh, you guys have a good working relationship, and he was listening to you. He had nice attention. I mean, he'll do anything for food.
anything.
He has super high food drive.
Mm-hmm.
He has super high toy drive. It's just nice.
He has really high toy drive.
I think he's part Rottweiler. I think
He
he's
is. I did his DNA
part
test.
pet,
4%.
part pit.
But
I don't know. It looks like more. Sometimes I look into his eyes and I'm like,
It's the way he
hello,
acts
friend.
yeah.
and the way he plays.
Okay.
Is
I don't have
very-
much experience with Rottweilers, but I'll take your word.
Good. Keep it that way.
It's his it's his behavior.
Okay.
I was like, you can be a little punk.
Yes. Yes, definitely.
Yeah,
Definitely.
he's a handful. I think if he was with somebody that didn't train and didn't hike every single morning, because you hike with him, you said almost every day, right?
Yeah, I kind of just started off initially when I got him and let his leash drag for a while. And he kind of just always stuck with me. And I think it's because I always have food on me. So he's like, oh, if I go back to her, I'm going to get a little treat or something. So he's hiked off leash with me ever since I got him, which has been great. But he definitely went through that phase of getting into things. And I think it was partly from nutrition, looking for stuff that he wasn't getting. But he's getting so much better now that that's in a better place.
Was he always scavenging? That's the wrong word.
Scavenging. Yeah, that's a word.
Okay.
You're good.
No, I think I said it wrong. That's okay. The heat gets to me. Was he always like that? Always searching for food? It got worse when he was on the hydrolyzed food.
It was probably bad in the fall when I was switching his kibble a lot because that's what I was kind of told to try. And right around his first birthday is when he got giardia. So I think that's the point at which I was like, oh, like something's just not working. And I think he was now that I see him on a better diet, I see him looking for stuff less. So I think it was something he was trying to find in other ways.
Well, giardia, like, really, it takes a toll on a dog.
Yeah.
It's an intestinal parasite, lasts forever. Sometimes it takes forever to get over.
Yep.
Then they give you metronidazole and Panicure. And then usually that hardens the stool right up.
Not with Sam.
Not with Sam, you said.
He's, every time they say it's a side effect, Sam will sure as heck have that as a side effect.
Yep, just
There you
painting
go.
the lawns.
Yep. Yep. That's him.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So I forget what month it was. It might have been April or May or something like that. We started working together, and one of my first questions was, are you open to feeding him real food?
Mm-hmm.
And I think you said, at this point, I'll try anything.
Yes. I was at like rock bottom. I think I was probably like crying on the way to group class and crying afterwards because I was like, I don't know what to do anymore. I feel so bad for him. Nothing's working. What now? I'll do anything.
Yeah. So we started working together.
Mm-hmm.
We did the virtual consult just like I would do with anybody. And what'd you get out of that first little lesson that we have, if you can remember?
I remember feeling really overwhelmed and that I needed to go buy a lot of beef. I remember calling my mom and being like, hey, are you going to BJ's anytime soon? Because I need to buy a ton of beef. And we literally went there, and I think I bought like the biggest packs or however much I knew my one freezer could hold.
Yeah, because in the beginning, so there's a recipe. I'm not going to share it on the podcast because it's top secret. But
It's the best recipe, though, I have to say.
There's a recipe that I've found works really well for settling a stomach. And because Sam had gone through everything that the vet tells you to do and it wasn't working, I said, okay, let's feed him this recipe for a while, like 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where all the beef came from, right?
Yes.
And like, not everybody is in that type of situation, but for me listening, I said, okay, well, we got to settle down his system. So let's feed him a bland diet for a good long while so that he has, consistent poop. And then we're going to try adding in a kibble because we had to find a kibble that worked for him because you and I broke down the cost of feeding cooked food exclusively, and even if you do it yourself, it's the food cost plus the time cost, which adds up. And if you choose to use some sort of a commercial diet like Ollie's or what's the one everybody uses, Farmer Dog.
Yeah,
Tried that too, did you?
I didn't try that one.
No, but it's expensive, right?
That's what I've heard
And
is
then
it's expensive.
If you have a large dog, because Sam weighs like 70 pounds,
Yep.
something like that, it's costly.
Yeah.
For my little 30-pound Reuben, it's feeding him fresh food is not as expensive as feeding Raven fresh food, who eats over 2 pounds of it a day.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have a large dog versus a Chihuahua, it's significant, right? So I really wanted to find a kibble that was going to work for him. So after a couple of weeks on the bland diet, and he had good stool then, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it's the good nuggets. We started to introduce kibble, and then we did find one that kind of worked.
Yep.
We did do some trial and error, though. Some of them did not.
Yeah.
Wait. So first step, get it solid, and then you were looking at kibble. So why were you different finding a kibble than anyone else?
I think because every kibble I tried was not working for Sam, and like...
Right, but why now did you think kibble was going to work?
So there were some options that she hadn't tried.
Okay.
And it was kind of... I mean, Molly told me, she's like, I have to feed him some kibble. Like, I can't do this all at the time. Like, maybe now that you've been feeding him real food, you might be like, I could do this all the time if I had to. But I did want to find something that worked for him. So we tried a few different brands, and the same kibble that Buddha eats is the one that Sam is able to eat. And then we experimented a lot with the timing of things.
Mm-hmm.
Because Sam's wicked active.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing that you told me was when he's really active, his stomach acts up.
Yep.
So when is he active? Well, he's active during the day. So with the timing of Sam's meals, we decided, okay, let's feed the kibble in the evening and let's feed the raw food in the morning so that, he has the easy to digest food that really agrees with him during the day, and then the kibble in the evening, and he's resting while he's digesting that food. Some people argue with that because kibble is higher in carbohydrate, and during the day, the dog is burning off more of that. But with the dog like Sam, with that level of sensitivity in his stomach, I don't really care about that so much. I care more about like his health. And once we started to introduce the kibble back in, which I think we did slowly, didn't we?
Yeah, we did only like half a cup at the beginning to make sure, and then slowly added more, like after a couple days.
Yeah, to just make sure that like, all right, there's nothing, and all of the while just feeding the bland diet. And I think another thing for the listener is that bland diet is not a complete imbalanced meal.
Right.
But at that point, it doesn't matter because the dog's sick all the time. So if you could be taking as many vitamins and eating as many whole foods as you want, but if you have IBS, you're not going to be getting any of those nutrients, right? Your small intestine your body can't do it. So the way that I look at it is settling the stomach down is like the first thing because it provides an opportunity for the complete imbalanced meal to come in and actually nourish the dog.
Yeah.
So all of those vitamins and minerals and the macronutrients too are actually being put to use and not just getting shot out the back end immediately.
Right.
So we kept Sam on that diet for a good long while and then introduced the kibble and were able to figure out a ratio that was going to work for Molly's budget and work for his stomach.
Yeah.
So then we built that recipe out. So using that bland diet recipe is like the perfect foundation for just like, okay, let's try adding this stuff.
Yeah.
And refresh my memory, but like you kind of added a lot of stuff pretty quickly.
I think we started adding stuff to that bland diet and he was responding well. And so it just kept going really well. And then eventually, it was almost easy. It was so refreshing to add things and it not totally upset his stomach.
Right.
Yeah.
You added one thing at a time, and then for how long? Before you added another thing?
Maybe I think we added 2 things to it, and then like a couple days, maybe another 1 or 2 things.
Oh, so you didn't even wait a week?
No. And then I think probably after like a week of that, I went raw and just switched from cooking it to raw, which was nice because it was less cooking.
Prep time.
Yeah, less prep time.
Disgusting though, isn't it?
It is disgusting, but I usually just put it down and turn away and go do something else. You enjoy and I'll go over here, which he does.
Yeah, and I think when you feed dogs like raw freeze-dried liver, things of that nature, you crack an egg on top of their food, it helps to acclimate those raw items to their system so that they don't respond negatively. But for me, I was totally counting on my own anecdotal experience with my own dogs where I have yet to feed them anything raw that has made them sick that I've made.
Yeah.
So my mentality with Molly and Sam was, okay, his stomach is 100%. If we go and add the raw organ meat and the seafood, we'll just do that at the same time. Like he's already had these things, like he can eat the liver. Like we know that that's no problem. Just add it in. And every day I was getting messages and everything going good. Yeah, everything's going great. What else should I do? What else should I do? And within a couple of weeks, we had a nice balanced meal that Sam can have. How many days a week is he eating the raw food meals?
Probably like 5 or 6.
Awesome.
If I have it in my freezer, I defrost it the day before and I give it to him because I know it's going to be better for him. And so I'd rather just keep prepping and do what I know works.
Yep. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And pretty consistent stools.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And I think he looks better. I think he feels better.
He does look better, actually.
Yeah.
He looks like he has some muscle now.
Yeah.
Like all of a sudden he kind of beefed up.
Yeah.
I noticed. I was like, look at him. He's looking good.
Well, I noticed his fur because his fur turned like brown gray. And now it's looking a little bit better, I feel like. Because he's like kind of a brown black dog.
Yeah, he's become more brown as he's gotten older, which I was talking to Lori about that the other day, and I don't know if this is now we're into shedding, so this is like his undercoat. So it's hard to tell, but yeah, he was a mostly black colored dog, but definitely a lot more brown now, which is interesting considering I know he's on a better diet. Maybe this is just...
I think that's just the mix of his breeds.
Yeah, could be.
You can tell when it's like sun damaged dogs that stay outside, like the chocolate lab that's in the sun all day and their hair kind of gets washed out. But he's not like that.
No.
It's just his coat.
Yeah, I think so. At least I hope so.
It is.
So do you have any advice for people that are kind of on the fence about feeding whole foods or even raw foods? What was your mentality like heading into making these changes?
I think I was just at like rock bottom when it came to his nutrition. I knew it wasn't working. I knew I needed to ask for help. I actually was like Googling dog nutritionists before realizing you had some background. So I was willing to try anything because I knew what was happening for him wasn't working. I think also learning that this hydrolyzed diet wasn't, an end like solution. It was kind of just to figure out what's next for him. I think that I was kind of reading the book that you shared with me, that Forever Dog book, and it talks a lot about how, dogs were in the wild for a long time and they just found their own food and figured it out and it worked for them. And so there's something to be said about like, that's what they used to do. Why can't they do it now? And I just hear more and more people talking about raw food or home cooked food and how much of an improvement it can make just in like 3 or 4 meals a week. So if I can improve his overall life and that few of meals, why wouldn't I do that for him?
Right. Yeah, that's awesome. That's the end goal. And I'm really happy that we were able to do some sort of a hybrid and have it still work out for you, because there are some situations where I know that won't work for people. For me, for example, our little dog Reuben had this like horrendous skin rash forever. And it was at times really bad, like almost like an open, like oozy underneath his belly and his groin. And I would give him like an allergy bath. It was like a foam antifungal, and it would help clear it up. And then a week later, so I was constantly just washing him to keep the skin irritation down. And in September, I switched him to completely eating raw food. And by December, it was gone. Wow. So it took like 3-4 months. And now he has some scarring left from it. So you can see like little black dots, but his fur is really nice and he doesn't have that irritation. So for me, I don't mess around with kibble at all with him, just because I've seen the results with that particular problem. And I know that there are going to be people that might fall into that category. And I think keeping an open mind about feeding as much whole foods as you need to, if it's working. If it's not working, obviously, we need to find a different path. But I'm glad that we were able to do a hybrid just for affordability's sake and convenience sake as well. I know that I'm a psycho and I enjoy meal prepping for myself and for the dogs, but not everybody is like that. So I was glad that we were able to find like a middle ground for him. And you can always feed a little bit more kibble one week if you're traveling or something. And then if you're feeling really up for it, feed more raw food if you wanted to do that. And another thing I wanted to say about you in particular is you're a really good communicator and you are really active. If I say, okay, these are the different options you can use for protein, you try all the different options. Mm-hmm. And you have a really open mind when it comes to this stuff, because I think people look at raw feeding or home cooked feeding and say, I have to hit this recipe and it has to be the same way every single time. my meals always need to be complete and balanced. And that's just not the case.
Yeah.
Even if you look at the percentage of bone in a chicken wing, let's say, like ChatGPT says it's between 20 and 30%. If you were like really anal retentive, that would drive you crazy.
Yeah.
Because you'd be like, oh my God, well, how am I supposed to make this recipe? Is it 25%? Is it 28%? Like, and at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Because the next week, maybe you're going to be using chicken necks, or maybe you're going to be using powder, bone meal powder in order to make the recipe. And when you're preparing, you don't have to be really militant about everything. And that's really hard for some people.
Yeah. It was hard for me at the beginning because I was like, if it's not 2.48 ounces, it's going to mess with him. But I've learned that
he's going to get osteoporosis.
Yeah, it's all downhill from there. But no, I've definitely become a little more relaxed in that sense about little things like that, which is nice to know. You don't have to be so crazy about it.
And if you have the knowledge, so the way Molly and I worked together was, I basically said, I'm going to do this for you for free, but we're going to work together. And we had like daily communication.
Yeah.
And that helped because you could ask questions and then I could answer right away. If I didn't know the answer, I would ask like my mentor on the feed reel and ask questions and stuff. And we could work together to figure it out. And that was really useful because if we had just had that one consult and then you were off to the races, I don't think there's any way you would be where you are right now with just an hour talking.
Yeah. I mean, I have a lot of questions. It's just something who I am. And even today, I message you for a question about something. It's just really nice to be able to have a resource that is knowledgeable or has a way to figure it out for you. And the answer is going to be true. You don't have to rely on Google, the AI response. Well, maybe this, that. Mm-hmm. No, I know when I get an answer, I'm confident it's good and it's truthful.
Yeah. And I think feeding whole foods, it's just a more real food to feed the dog. And as long as you hit the basics, you're going to be off on the right footing. And the feedback from the dog is going to tell you whether you're doing the right thing.
Exactly.
If you were texting me piles of mush, I'd be like, okay, we got to do something different here. Mm-hmm. That being said, I remember, I think it was the second time we met on Zoom, you said, oh, I made Sam a meal before we started working together. It was terrible. I'm like, okay, what did you put in it?
I'm like embarrassed to hear this right now that I know what I know.
And you told me, and I'm like, oh my God, that's like a colon cleanse, Molly. There's so much fiber. I'm like,
yeah.
She had like peas, sweet potatoes, pumpkins, rice. I'm like, okay.
This is why it's nice to have someone who's knowledgeable and not trust Google. Just as let me state that fact again.
Yeah, and it's individual ingredients might be fine, but when you mix them all together,
terrible.
It might not work out so well, even if it's home cooked. So
here you are thinking you're doing something good, and it's literally the exact opposite. Embarrassingly so.
We're going to give you a little colon cleanse.
Yep. Oh, that's sure what he got.
Oh, no.
But a lot of meat, right?
Yes, a lot of meat. And I don't eat meat, so that's been very interesting.
Oh my God, I didn't even know that.
I don't eat a lot of meat. So like I've bought things. I'm the person at the grocery store to the butcher. I'm like, yeah, where do I find the pancreas? And they're like, oh, are you? And what? And so I'm in a whole other section of the grocery store I never knew existed. Yeah. I've made up for my lack of time buying meat. Now it's like all I buy.
Well, excuse me, do you know where the pancreas is located?
They're like, no, I think we're out today. I think we have this or that. I'm like, oh, well, I haven't talked to Leah about that. So we're going to skip that one and I'll get back to you. Thank you, butcher.
You can go to H Mart.
I know my brother got, my brother's had pigs for the past 3 years. And this year he got lambs.
Oh, wow.
Terrible.
Yeah, they're so cute.
Okay, don't talk about it.
Yeah, you can't talk about it before.
Yeah, they're really cute. And like you pull up and like they think you have food.
Oh.
So they just go crazy. It's so cute. But I told my brother, I'm like, all the organs. I want all of the organs.
Okay,
he's like, what?
I know. It's really like disgusting, but you're like, yeah, it's for free. Give it to me.
Totally. My really good friend is a hunter, and I picked up 35 pounds from him that he just gave to me. I ate some of it and fed it to the dogs, and I reached back out to him. He's like, yeah, come on, I got some more, because a deer is huge.
Yeah.
And if your whole family doesn't like eating venison and it's just one person, it's going to sit in the freezer until it's the next deer season and you want to go out and get another one.
Right.
So, I mean, if it's been in there for less
You
than
who doesn't eat meat, you're like, exactly. Yes. At the next deer season, I definitely want a fresh one in there.
Totally. Antlers too. Put those up on the wall.
So yeah, I've gotten pretty, I don't know what the right word is. I've been exploring different avenues.
You are much braver.
And my friend is like, yo, we should go out hunting. Well, you can come with us. And I'm like, okay, I can't see myself doing that, but it definitely would lighten the load.
Would you go? Would you go? You would go hunting?
I would. I just don't know if I could.
Well, this is the first I've heard of this.
I don't know if
I'll be back at 5. I'm going hunting.
I just don't know if I could actually do it. That's I've never been. So I know it's a different type of world. I'd like to think that I could, just for survival. But a doe-eyed little deer.
I mean, you could check it off the bucket list, I guess.
I know.
You're going to be like on Schitt's Creek when David goes
turkey hunting.
Yep.
Oh, God.
That's terrible. Are you going to do that? I can't. She's going to have the camo hat on.
When she doesn't respond to you one day about what she's doing, maybe just assume it's that activity.
Yeah.
Well,
it would save me a lot of money. Same friend has a coworker or something. He has a Cane Corso that was allergic to like everything.
Wow.
So he had to feed the dog raw food, and the dog weighs like 130 pounds. So he got his hunting license just for his dog.
Wow.
Just to be able to feed his dog.
That's dedication.
But to your point, Molly, you're at your wit's end.
True.
When your dog is sick and you can't make it better, and I know some people, if you're listening and you're not like a dog person or you've had the luck of always having a healthy dog, you'd be like, these ladies are crazy, childless people. But
just spend one day with someone who doesn't have a healthy dog.
But
and you'll know.
It's very stressful.
Yeah.
Especially when you're doing everything that you think that you can and nothing is working.
Mm-hmm.
Medication's not working. Hydrolyzed diet isn't working. You're putting fish oil on the food and it's not working. It's very, very frustrating.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, this kid, I don't blame him one bit.
No, I don't either. I mean, if you have the resources and you're brave enough to do it.
But if somebody like that needed to feed their dog 100% commercial raw food, I mean, you're talking $500 or $600 a month.
Totally.
To feed a dog 3 pounds of raw food a day, more.
Yep.
I mean, it's really expensive.
Yeah.
Even I've been telling you, the Organics co-op that's around here. P.S. Everybody, I saw Paul Deschamps put on Facebook that they're starting a Organics co-op on the Cape. If you're down there, hop to it. So ours is in New Hampshire, which is close for us, but their prices are really good, and the food comes from a farm in New York, and all they do is make raw dog food, and it's an amazing product. I can't even make their chicken recipe myself for less money than they charge. Like it's $2.60 a pound or something like that.
And these are the patties we were talking about that essentially have everything.
Yeah, you can get it without the premix, they call it. So they worked with a veterinarian nutritionist to fortify the raw food. So there's, like a nutrient packet that they put in there. And you can get it with or without that.
Oh, okay.
So some dogs are sensitive to some of those additives in foods. And I think that might be a reason why some dogs are sensitive to kibble in general. But, and some people like adding their own seafood and, their own things to the food in order to make it a little bit more balanced. So you can order it with or without. And my dogs have done great on it. When I order, I just order anything different or new. I try to run through all of the different options. The lamb option is expensive because lamb is just expensive, but I've had them do the beef, turkey. They have a 3 meat blend and chicken, and they've done really, really well on it. And the prices, you can't beat it. And when you open the package, it looks like a hamburger. I mean, it looks like real food. It's amazing.
Wow.
It just has a really red color. It looks like it looks when I make it at home.
That's awesome.
So it is awesome. The caveat is you have to go pick it up. So
Yeah.
that's
if only the
tough
teaching
part.
schedule allowed me
I
to
know.
take off on Wednesday every month.
I know we might need to have a Organics limo service
Yeah.
for our area.
That would be a doable option for me. 'Cause the thought of it grosses me out. But when I see the patty, it's no big thing. 'Cause
Right.
Back in the day when we first started, my mentor fed raw. And so we would feed raw all the time. I didn't think about it, but it was just patties, just throw them in the dish. To me, that would appeal more to the masses than
Totally.
having to cook it all.
Yeah. And you can just go and buy it and then.
Tons of packages, you go through them, you defrost it in the fridge,
Yeah.
That's a doable situation for me.
And I've looked into that a little bit, and we've talked about that as just like as another option for, when I don't have time to prep or
Yeah, because you haven't fed him any commercial raw.
No.
You've made all of his food.
I made all his food, and then I just started introducing the patties because I wanted another option if I didn't have time to prep or if I ran out or whatever it might be. And so I found one that really works for him, and it's one that has it appears to have everything that he would need to create a mostly balanced meal for him. So I feel good having that as like a backup option.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great. I do the same thing with raw organics. I probably feed like 60% of the food I make, and then I use the raw organics, and then Raven eats some kibble just because I want to be able to feed her at my mom's house or feed her if we're traveling. And she does well on the one specific kibble that I feed. If I try to change her kibble, it, like Lori can tell you,
Forget it.
She has diarrhea.
immediately. It's crazy. I'm like, what are they putting in this stuff to make it? I
think
I know what they're
Well,
putting
it's what
in
you
it, but-
said. It's additive. So when you look for a dry food, point is you like to search for a dried dog food that has less additives.
Not really.
You said
I like a dog food that works for the dog. I really, at this point, after working with people, if the person that I'm working with is feeding some whole foods, I just want the kibble to not give the dog diarrhea. Because most dogs are so freaking sensitive to kibble. Reuben is not. I can feed him anything and he'd be fine, but he has that rash on the kibble, so I don't. Raven, I've tried the most expensive kibble with her, like the gently cooked kibble. I've tried everything. I think what it is with the kibble is some of the more high-end kibble has things like pea protein, lentils, sweet potato, those alternative types of carbohydrate and fiber. And she does really well on corn, wheat, and rice, the things that are supposed to be bad.
Right.
So, like, I've fed her Purina is what she ate when she was a puppy. I've fed her Eukanuba. I've fed her, she's eating a Nookshuk right now. And all three of those options are like not the best, but because it doesn't make her sick and because she eats so little of it, I'm kind of like, you know what? I don't even care. It doesn't give her diarrhea. I can take it on the road. I think that and actually I lied. If I feed Raven sweet potato that I cook, it gives her bad poop. I can't feed her sweet potato either.
Which
so
you read, sweet potato's good for them. Give them sweet potato.
Right. It could work for tons of dogs. It just doesn't work for mine.
Yeah.
Well, you said fish too. Sorry.
Oh, fish?
Yeah, didn't you say you were putting fish in and she didn't react
Fish
well
oil.
to it?
I cannot feed her fish oil. Like capsules or even, it's really weird. She gets instantaneous dandruff and diarrhea.
Wow.
Yeah. She can eat, and when I feed her salmon, I can't feed her the skin of the salmon. It's like too fatty. So the meat she can eat, but not the skin. It's fine. Reuben loves the skin, so.
And I think that's what's so hard about kibble, especially, is like what works for one dog doesn't work for the other. And people will rave, my dog's done great on this. Well, that's great. That's your dog. But you just never know how your dog's going to respond.
Yeah. At this point, if somebody is feeding whole foods and a kibble, like, because I know so much about the way that they process it and the things that they do to it, I don't really care what kind of kibble it is, as long as it doesn't make the dog sick.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter if you get the highest quality kibble, it's still ultra processed. And I think you're in a better position if the high quality kibble is a food grade kibble, because you know that at least the ingredients weren't like horse meat. But at the same time, it's so highly processed that it doesn't really even matter. Like if you look at the back of a kibble bag, they're adding back in some of those 10 essential amino acids that are in the protein. So when we feed our dogs meat, most of the meat that we would feed, lamb, beef, chicken, seafood as well. Not all seafood, but most of the seafood that we would feed, like small oily fish, this and that. It has all 10 of those essential amino acids. If you look at the back of a kibble bag, they're adding those amino acids back in synthetically because they get destroyed during the processing.
Yeah.
So it's not even the meat anymore. That's what those amino acids are, what make it meat. That's the value of it.
Yeah.
And so they cook it so much, they process it so much that they then have to add it back in synthetically. So that's why, you look at the back of a kibble bag, these hydrolyzed foods, and the first 3 ingredients are not meat.
Right.
They're adding those amino acids back into the food. So it's not ideal. I love kibble. I think it's a feat of human engineering that we have it. And I think more people own dogs because of it. But I do think that there are better ways.
Yeah. I think when you shared your knowledge about dog kibble with me, it was mind blowing what they do and how they do it. And I was like, this is terrible.
Yeah. And it's public information.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not anything that I'm making up. Most of it is what I learned in the curriculum and reading the Forever Dog. And it's not, they're not hiding anything. And I think another thing to realize is the model for making dog food is kind of based on the model for making food for feed animals, right? So like cows, horses, ruminants, and these kind of herd animals, they do really well on starches. They should be eating grass, but there's not enough grass, so we need to feed them animal feed. And companies like Purina, they're a huge pet feed manufacturing company as well as dog food manufacturing company. So I think the idea behind it, making this very stable, easy to store product that, people can use to feed their animals, it's a great idea. But dogs are predators and they're primarily carnivores. So it changes what we have to feed them in order for them to get everything that they need. So I think that there are amazing things about kibble, and I think that there's drawbacks. And ultimately, I think you should do what works for you and your dog. But in Molly's case, switching it up and adding some of those whole foods was like the best thing for Sam. So
absolutely.
I hope he continues to
Me too.
do it.
It's nice to be on the other side now. So I hope we just keep going forward.
Me too. And if not, you can ask some questions and we can figure it out.
Perfect.
Your main, do you only give him beef?
I have explored chicken, which I thought he was allergic to, and he's doing okay on chicken. I just tried pork, and I'm not sure that's agreeing with him. So that's the only one I hesitate about. And I'm going to try turkey.
So chicken is okay in this form.
Yes.
But chicken was not okay in kibble form.
Yeah, which was interesting. I think you told me that a lot of dogs, you think they have a chicken allergy, but really it's just the kibble they're allergic to, not the actual protein itself.
Same with Maple, Carol's dog.
Oh, yes. We should have Carol back.
Yeah.
She's hilarious. You totally should.
Maple's been getting into things, so
Yeah.
maybe we'll talk about that with Carol.
I can only imagine.
Yeah, I think we should have Carol back on too to talk about Maple and nutrition, because Carol is a G and makes all of Maple's food.
It's incredible.
I mean,
Really?
she's going to have chicken soon. She's going to start hanging them upside down.
Oh, God.
I wouldn't put it past her.
I wouldn't either. I think that she would just crack that X right there by her hands.
Wow. Well,
Like
maybe she would go
mafia
hunting
style.
with you.
I think
Oh, my God. Yes.
There you go. There's your hunting buddy.
So that I can,
Yeah.
I don't
can't.
know if we could keep the noise level down between the two of us.
The two of them in camo
Oh,
with
yeah.
a gun.
Yep.
That's what we're doing.
Yep.
Oh my God.
You might go just to watch.
I damn would. And like they drive up in a van, the door swings open, and they roll out into the woods.
Oh, God. You'd have to have an audience.
I think Carol would.
She would.
Oh yeah, she definitely
She'd
would.
get all gussied up for it.
No, but she's seen really good results for Maple. But Maple's a different case. We can talk about that later, where it's like she couldn't eat the kibble. You know, she had to figure something else out because she was just sick all the time. But yeah, sensitive stomachs.
Poor
Do
thing.
pit bulls have
Yes, they do.
sometimes.
Yes, they do.
All right, Molly, that was awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming and sharing so eloquently. We really,
you.
really appreciate. And Laurie, we've done 4 owner interviews now, and we need to have a guy on next time, I think. What do you think? Do we have any mandlers that would be good? We'll have to think about that.
Sure, you can find someone.
Imagine I just call somebody up and I don't think they like me. I'm like, do you want to do a podcast with us? You can like talk smack.
Let's just hope they have a dog at least.
Yeah, like put the ones on. I mean, I have a lot of nice dads right now. Actually, I have a real like a handful of guys who are like taking it on.
I know. I feel like to do a podcast with us, though, like you need to know us.
Yeah, like right now, I'm just dating them.
Like we see Molly once a week.
Yeah, I don't see my manlers more than once.
Maybe
a week.
Ben. Yeah, Ben would be funny. That would be good. All right. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. If you like what you heard, please feel free to share it with your friends. If you're listening on Spotify, you can quickly give us a review. It literally takes 2 seconds. If you're listening on YouTube and you want to drop a comment, that really helps more people hear the show. Otherwise, thank you so much, and you will hear from us next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.